The classic question has always been, when Lambo? And the answer has got to be now. Because if you don't get your money straight, you're going to be looking like a straight fool trying to get out of that car. Guys, it's a funny intro, but I've got a serious video for you guys today. I'm going to give you a fresh perspective on the S&P 500, the overall markets, and then I'm going to cover a very hot stock. I think it's an important play for my portfolio going into 2025, and I want to make sure that I get it at the best price, and I know when to take profits, when to hedge. I'm going to lay that out for you guys today. This is the Stocks with Josh show. Thank you for joining me. Hit that like, say hi in the comments, and I want you at the end of this video to check out a live I did with Tim on crypto the other day. Tons of insight, ton of gems in there. Then tomorrow I'm going to have the Kiwi Trader, aka Christmas Tree Trader, back on the show to give us another hot crypto take. Guys, let's start off with the S&P 500. Just for perspective, we made a new high. We hit 53.54. And if you want to know how high that has come since the lows of October 2022 when everybody was predicting the mother of all recessions, well, since then till now, we're actually up 35%. Now, we are in a narrowing ascending wedge, and those are classically bearish because the closer we get to the tip of that wedge, that's when they traditionally break down. Now, we're not even at the top of that wedge because we've been sort of rolling over, and I've been talking to you guys about that on this show for quite a while. The last thing I want you guys to see, and this is so important, is I want you to compare the bearish divergence that we had on the chart back in 2021 that's got nice and circled for you guys, the area and the chart below. We want to compare that with what we've got right now, which is the exact same bearish divergence. And so I've been sounding the alarm that we have shifted from a markup phase to a distribution phase, but at the exact same time, what you need to know about distribution is that we will make new highs, higher highs, and we're going to make lower lows over the next 2 months. So the markets are definitely going to be volatile. So here's a couple other things I want you guys to be aware of on the global economic level, and that's that the EU cut their rates. Now we're waiting for the Fed to cut rates here in the United States, but the EU had pressure with the higher rates causing a slowdown in their economy. They're not as strong of an economy as here in the United States, and so they had to concede and cut rates. Now we also saw the same thing happening in Canada. So now we've gotten two large economic groups pointing to the fact that our Fed is going to be up against the exact same thing at some point. Now, that speculation is that it's going to be September, but next week we're going to hear from the Fed and we're going to see what he says is absolutely going to move the markets. Now, here's what the market wants to hear. They want to hear that he is getting dovish and not hawkish, and I actually think he's going to come out dovish, and we're going to see these markets go on a tear higher. But as I've been warning, it's not a continuation of a bull run. It's just volatility, and I'm going to be selling positions into strength. Today in the Stock Squad Patreon, the Discord, a bunch of the notices I gave was taking profits in some positions that I had alerted last week. One of them was coin. Not completely out of my coin position, but I was selling into strength. And as soon as I made that call in the Discord, coin's price lost about $3. Now, I don't think the move up is over. So I'm going to take those funds that I made and I'm going to roll them into earlier, smaller scalp positions to play the remainder of this run. Guys, I still believe that we're going to see Bitcoin push up to that 77K number. I think it's going to take coin higher. I want to take a quick station break to talk to you guys about the NordVPN router. Now, I'm using the NordVPN for protection. This hides your location, hides your IP address, and prevents phishing attacks, as well as the fact that it opens the door to being able to use some crypto exchanges that otherwise you may be restricted from using. If you launch the application, it's going to give you the option of signing up from anywhere in the world. So if you are in New York, you could choose to be pointing your location at Indiana. So anybody that would be looking at where you're coming from might think, okay, they're from Indiana, or you could just go outside the country. The bottom line is that you control what people see about you. And I also just need that layer of protection, that layer of security for my portfolio, my crypto portfolio that I'm accessing online on my computer. I just want to protect it and put that additional layer. I've seen so many TikToks and so many videos about people that have gotten themselves hacked. They went to the wrong site, the wrong location. They did not realize that they brought those predators back with them over to their crypto or their stock exchange. It's just not worth it. That's why I put that layer of protection using NordVPN. Now, I'm going to leave a link in the top pinned comment for you guys because they've got an offer on a 2-year plan. They're going to give you 4 months for free, but it also has a money back guarantee. So if it doesn't do what you thought it would do, or you just don't like it, you can get all your money back in 30 days. Check it out for yourself. See if it makes sense. I personally need to have that layer of protection on my computer because of the amount of money that I'm trying to protect. Okay, let's take a step back in time and talk about Palantir. These guys IPO'd back in September of 2020 when things were coming out of a V-shaped recovery. They entered the market at the $10 price and they skyrocketed all the way up to $45. This has been a hot play. Ton of retail money has been piling into this play and we've enjoyed an incredible run-up over the last year. It's been a hot stock again, slowly climbing back up to $26. So it's come up a lot. And one of the things that the market's been speculating about is whether or not these guys are going to be included into the S&P 500, which I think they will be in this next quarter. And in anticipation of that, there's been a lot of bringing the stock price up from those recent lows. Now, some people would tell you that Palantir is expensive, and I believe that only in the near term is it potentially expensive. The PE is a little bit pricey, but when we look down the road at the potential of this particular company, these guys are just beginning and they only need 1 or 2 quarters to fill in that forward PE. For example, they did in 2023 revenue $2.2 billion, and the TAM, which represents total addressable market by Palantir, is $119 billion. And so there is a ton of money each and every year for these guys to be going after, and they are a leader in the pack. Their proprietary software, which is absolutely protected, does something quite unique. It basically finds data like the needle in the haystack. Its AI-driven algorithm searches mass amounts of data to find critical information, the type of information that corporations and governments want. And so they're going to be getting the very big contracts ahead. They're the right type of company in an AI, ever-increasing driven world, and they're going to continue to grow. And so this is a stock that I believe can absolutely get to $100 in the next couple of years. But the big question is how best to invest and how best to swing trade it. Now, if you're an investor, then the goal would largely be to get your hands on as much as you could, whether it goes down when the market pulls back or whether it pops when the market climbs. But here's an event that's absolutely going to impact this stock, and I want to go through with you. That's the inclusion in the S&P 500. Now, that sounds good, but I'm going to take you into when Tesla was included in the S&P 500, and we're going to look at how the stock price played out over the course of the next year, because there is something called the S&P 500 curse, which means when a company enters into the S&P 500, it goes into a period of time in which the stock price becomes dormant. And part of the reason why that happens is because before it got included, there was a buy the rumor, sell the news. And so it comes up a lot in price, gets included, and then it's volatile, but then it spends a lot of time cooling off. We're going to look at what that might look like in the Palantir chart. But let me just share the dialogue of the curse with you guys so you can see it with your own eyes. All right, The Motley Fool did a nice article sort of breaking down the idea of when Palantir might get included in the S&P 500, pretty much pointing to before or after June 21st. But here's the idea of the S&P 500 curse. It's the tendency for a company's stock to underperform after being added to the S&P 500, which is the opposite of the S&P 500 inclusion effect. The inclusion effect is when a company's stock price increases between the announcement of its addition to the index and the actual addition date. This is often due to mutual funds and exchange-traded funds buying the stock for their portfolios, as well as retail buying. For example, Tesla's stock price increased by more than 50% between its November 2020 announcement and its December 2020 edition. So let's just go do that. Let's go look at the Tesla chart. I put it in here for you guys. This orange dotted line is when Tesla got included. And in the case of Tesla, and it's obviously going to vary for every single company, but in the case of Tesla, it went up for the next 2 weeks. Each of these candles represents a week in the market. So after it was included, it saw a continued push higher, but then after that, it spent 148 days in decline. Now, that ultimately turned out to be a pretty good buying opportunity. But you know what? You wouldn't want to be buying it up here at 293 when you were going to have the opportunity of buying it for nearly half of that at 182. So let's sort of apply that idea right now to Palantir. All right, we're looking at the Palantir chart. Each of these candlesticks is 2 days in the market. And in the past, I've been pointing out that we're watching and waiting for it to come back and touch this ascending channel. We are in an overall ascending channel ever since December of 2022. We have had these pullbacks between the channel, but the current pullback is actually a descending channel. And so if we get above this descending channel, we are very likely to push to the top of this channel, pushing the price up to above $29. Now, I want to point out that there's absolutely resistance at $29, structural resistance, but we are still in that environment where the market is anticipating this inclusion in the S&P 500. And so I would actually give Palantir the benefit of the doubt that we're not going to face a breakdown in the price. We came down, skirted the bottom of this ascending channel, and we're building momentum. I think it's very possible that we still come back and touch it. But overall, I think that from now until when it gets included, there's plenty of room for this to go all the way up to $29. Now, I've drawn these lines in the sand. Right now, the line in the sand is $22. If we're beneath $22, you need to be realistic about the fact that Palantir could come back to structure at $14. If we're above $22, then I would say that the $29 target is a minimum. But here's something very important I want you guys to see. Do you see these red arrows? This one is pointing up. It's showing higher prices over time, but down beneath on the RSI, we've got decreasing momentum. And so guys, this is called bearish divergence, and it should never be ignored in the chart. It means that up here at this price, when we had moved from $6, there was a lot of interest and a lot of buyers pushing it all the way up to around $16. Ever since then, the momentum has been decreasing. And so what you need to understand is that there's a lot of interest in Palantir at the right price. Smart money accumulated this from 6 to 16. And ever since then, it's been moving up on lower momentum and lower volume. What that can help you do is to see the future. What does the future look like? Well, that momentum is telling you that there's going to come an end to the up price. Now, I'm not saying that we're at that point today. I think $22 is the line in the sand. But I do think that if we were to get up to $29 and plus, and it was very close to that S&P 500 inclusion date, then you need to be aware that we could actually enter into a 6-month period of time in which this gets digested and priced in. People are always looking to make fast money on Wall Street, but it's actually the patient hands who hone in on a stock, chart it, understand the fundamentals, do their research, and create a trade plan using disciplines that make the most money. Now, I want to make a ton of money on Palantir. I am drooling over Palantir and over these charts, and I'm sharing with you guys my game plan. I'm going to be a seller, even though I believe that Palantir one day may be a $100 stock. I understand the range. Right now, the range is $30 on the high end. It's $15 on the low end. And largely, we're right in the middle of that approximately. And so we're moving towards a news event. And that news event, the S&P 500 curse, is typically an opportunity to take profits and wait for it to come back. I actually like this company a lot, and I've been buying regularly around this $20 to $22 mark, and I would just simply buy more if it came down to that $15 mark. I wanted you guys to have a fresh perspective on this long-term investment and this short-term swing. When I really like a stock, I play it from both directions. I accumulate some over here, and I swing it over here. Right now, if we're above $22, I'm going to be in calls to the upside, small position size, and when it begins to run, that's when I ramp and scale up and try to make some of the big bucks. Had a couple nice calls. Coin was up 50% today, but up over 100% from where we've entered over the last couple weeks. And of course, MicroStrategies was a huge win. I'm going to wrap it up today. We've got a lot going on this week. Another exciting video coming to you guys tomorrow. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe for me. And thanks for joining me today. Peace and blessings. Take care.